The sound of ripping fabric cut through the first-class cabin, sharper, more visceral than the thunder of jet engines just beyond the sealed windows. It was the kind of sound that made people flinch, made them look up from their phones and tablets, made them witness something they'd later wish they hadn't seen. Marcus Bennett, a man whose single signature on a contract could shift billions across international markets, whose investment decisions shaped entire industries, whose presence in a boardroom commanded immediate attention. That man was being hauled down the narrow aisle like some kind of common criminal. His charcoal Tom Ford jacket, tailored perfectly to his frame just 3 weeks ago on Savile Row, was torn clean at the shoulder seam. The fabric, expensive Italian wool that cost more than most people's monthly rent, hung uselessly, exposing the white dress shirt beneath. "You're making a mistake," Marcus said, his voice disturbingly calm beneath the chaos swirling around him that will cost you everything. The flight attendant, a woman named Sharon with perfectly painted nails and a smile made of ice, pointed one manicured finger toward the exit door. "The only mistake, sir," she said, venom dripping from each syllable, "was thinking you belonged in seat 1A. She had no idea that the phone resting in Marcus's pocket was about to permanently ground her entire fleet. Before we go deeper into this case, take a second and hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and let us know where you're watching from. I'm curious to know how far these stories travel. The air inside Skywave Airlines. Flight 607 hung thick and stale. It smelled like yesterday's coffee and someone's overpowering cologne. Through the oval windows, the tarmac at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport shimmered under the brutal Texas sun, heat waves rising like ghosts off the concrete. Marcus Bennett adjusted the cuffs of his custom-tailored suit, glancing down at the Audemars Piguet wrapped around his wrist. He was a man who valued precision. Delays irritated him. Unnecessary noise even more so. He'd boarded early, claimed his rightful place in seat 1A, and settled in for the cross-country flight to Boston. He had a merger waiting, a deal involving the acquisition of a tech logistics company that would reshape how goods moved across North America. He needed rest, not this. "Excuse me." The voice sliced through the cabin, nasal, entitled, grating on Marcus's nerves like nails on glass. A young man stood looming over him in the aisle, mid-20s, dressed in a designer tracksuit that screamed money but whispered insecurity. He held a crumpled boarding pass in one hand and a half-empty glass of champagne in the other. This was Tyler Harrington. "You're in my seat, man," Tyler said, loud enough for everyone in first class to hear. Marcus blinked once. "I believe you're mistaken. This is seat 1A. My ticket confirms it." Tyler laughed. A whitey-hee-hee, sharp, barking sound carrying no humor. "Look, I don't know how you ended up here, but I always sit in 1A. I'm a platinum elite member. My dad's on the board of this airline, so get up. Move back to coach where you belong." Marcus's jaw tightened, but he stayed seated. "I paid full price for this seat, Mr. Harrington. If you have an issue, I suggest you take it up with the staff. I'm not moving." Tyler snapped his fingers, summoning Sharon, the head purser who'd been hovering nearby, watching with a predatory smile. She'd already sized Marcus up. Black hoodie initially covering the suit, quiet demeanor, no entourage. In her mind, he was an upgrade passenger, someone flying on a company pass. Tyler Harrington, on the other hand, was a known entity. "Is there a problem, Mr. Harrington?" Sharon asked, her voice sticky sweet. "This guy's in my seat. I want him gone, now." Sharon turned her gaze to Marcus. The sweetness vanished, replaced by something cold. "Sir, I'm going to need to see your boarding pass again." Marcus sighed, reaching into his jacket pocket and producing the slip of paper. Sharon scanned it carefully. It was legitimate. Seat 1A, paid in full. A flexible first-class ticket, the most expensive booking available. But she glanced at Tyler, tapping his foot impatiently, then back at Marcus. She made a quick calculation. Tyler's father was indeed a minor investor. The airline's policy was to keep high-value customers happy. In Sharon's biased estimation, the quiet black man in the suit was expendable. The loud air in the tracksuit was not. "Sir, there seems to be a double booking error. Mr. Harrington has priority status. I'm going to have to ask you to move." "Move where?" "We have a seat available in Economy Plus, row 28. A few passengers gasped audibly. Marcus looked at Sharon, really looked at her, searching for a shred of professionalism or decency. He found none. "Let me understand this correctly. You want me to give up the seat I paid $12,000 for to accommodate a man who arrived late simply because he has status, and you want to downgrade me to row 28 without compensation. We'll offer you a voucher for $50 off your next flight. Now please gather your things. We're delaying takeoff." "No," Marcus said. The cabin went silent. Tyler's eyes bulged. "Excuse me?" "I said no," Marcus repeated calmly. "I have a valid contract of carriage. I am seated. I am not causing a disturbance. I am not moving." Sharon's face hardened into fury. "Sir, if you do not comply with crew instructions, I will have you removed from this aircraft." "I am not being disruptive. I am sitting quietly in the seat I paid for. You are the one creating a disturbance." Tyler leaned in close, breath reeking of alcohol. "Listen, buddy, I don't know who you think you are, but you're about to learn a very expensive lesson about knowing your place." Marcus didn't flinch. He simply looked Tyler dead in the eye. "And you are about to learn what real power looks like." Sharon marched toward the cockpit. She returned with Captain Reynolds, a graying man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Sir, I've been informed there's a dispute. For the sake of departure, I'm asking you to cooperate and move to the alternate seat." "Captain, I have a valid ticket. I am not intoxicated. I am not threatening anyone. I have every right to be here. If you remove me without cause, you will be in violation of federal aviation regulations." Captain Reynolds hesitated. He knew Marcus was right. But Sharon was glaring, and Tyler was on his phone, likely calling his father. "Security! We need assistance in first class." 2 airport security officers boarded within minutes. "Sir, we've been asked to escort you off the aircraft." "On what grounds?" "Failure to comply with crew instructions." Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. "I'm calling my attorney. You have exactly 60 seconds to reconsider this." Sharon laughed, cold and cruel. "Your attorney can meet you at the gate. Officers, remove him." They didn't just escort Marcus off the plane. They dragged him. One officer grabbed his left arm. The other grabbed his right. Marcus didn't resist, but that didn't stop them from wrenching his arms behind his back with unnecessary force. His laptop clattered to the floor. His phone skidded under the seat. "Stop. I'm not resisting. There is no need for force." But they weren't listening. Sharon stood in the aisle, arms crossed, watching with smug satisfaction as the officers hauled Marcus toward the exit. His jacket tore at the shoulder, the sound loud and final. Passengers stared, some with phones out, recording. Tyler Harrington sat down in seat 1A, propping his feet up. "Finally!" They pulled Marcus off the plane, down the jet bridge, into the terminal. The officers released him just outside the gate. Marcus straightened his torn jacket, retrieved his belongings, and walked calmly to a quiet corner of the terminal. Then he made a phone call. 3,000 miles away, Leonard Greaves answered on the first ring. "Marcus, what's wrong?" Leonard Greaves was one of the most feared attorneys in the country. He didn't handle small cases. He handled catastrophes. Marcus told him everything: the confrontation, the illegal removal, the public humiliation, the torn jacket. Leonard was silent for a long moment. "I'll be there in 4 hours. Don't talk to anyone. And Marcus?" "Yes?" "They just made the worst mistake of their lives." Before we continue, take a second and share your thoughts so far on this story below. I read every single one. By the time Leonard arrived, Marcus had checked into an airport hotel and compiled evidence. His boarding pass, credit card statement showing the $12,000 charge, screenshots of Skywave's contract of carriage, and, most damning, video footage. 3 passengers had sent Marcus recordings taken on their phones. The video showed everything: Tyler's drunken aggression, Sharon's discriminatory remarks, the unnecessary force. One video even captured Sharon saying, "He doesn't belong up here." Leonard reviewed the footage with surgical precision. This is textbook. Discrimination, breach of contract, assault, false imprisonment, all on camera. "What do you recommend?" Leonard leaned back. "We could sue for damages, settle for a few million, public apology, lifetime free flights. Everyone moves on. Or," Leonard smiled, thin and dangerous, "or we destroy them." The lawsuit hit Skywave Airlines like a freight train. Leonard filed a $150 million claim in federal court, citing racial discrimination, breach of contract, intentional infliction of emotional distress. He attached the video evidence, passenger testimonies, and a scathing analysis of Skywave's internal policies, which had a documented history of discriminatory seating practices. The media exploded within hours. Black executive dragged off flight after refusing to give up seat. Skywave Airlines faces massive lawsuit over racial discrimination. CEO humiliated in first class, shocking video going viral. By day's end, the videos had been viewed over 20 million times. Social media erupted. Civil rights organizations issued statements. Boycotts were organized. Skywave stock dropped 12% in a single session. Then the floodgates opened. Dozens of passengers came forward with their own stories of discrimination. A former flight attendant leaked internal emails showing crew members were encouraged to prioritize high-value customers, code for favoring white passengers. A whistleblower revealed Skywave had quietly settled at least 18 similar complaints over 5 years under strict NDAs. Within a week, Skywave's CEO Gerald Winters was forced to issue a public statement. He stood before cameras, sweating, reading from a prepared script. "We deeply regret the incident involving Mr. Bennett. This does not reflect our values. We are conducting a full internal investigation." A reporter shouted, "Will you be firing the employees involved?" Gerald hesitated. "That will be determined by the investigation." "Are you admitting racial discrimination occurred?" "We are not making any admissions at this time." It was a disaster. Leonard watched from his office, smiling thinly. "They're trying to manage this, but they can't. It's too late." "What's our next move?" Marcus asked over the phone. "We escalate. I'm filing for punitive damages and requesting a temporary restraining order to halt all Skywave operations until they prove they've eliminated discriminatory practices." The Department of Transportation got involved. Federal investigators descended on Skywave's headquarters, demanding access to personnel records, training materials, customer complaints. What they found was damning. A corporate culture prioritizing profit over people, policies systematically favoring certain passengers, and retaliation against whistleblowers. Skywave was placed under formal investigation. Gerald Winters walked into an emergency board meeting knowing his career was over. "We're facing a $150 million lawsuit. Our stock is down 30%. We're under federal investigation. Every news outlet treats us like civil rights villains. How did this happen, Gerald?" "This happened because you created a culture where flight attendants thought it was acceptable to drag paying customers off planes based on skin color, a board member said sharply. Effective immediately, Gerald. You're terminated. Marcus watched the news from his Boston office. Gerald Winters' resignation was the top story on every network. But Marcus wasn't satisfied. He called Leonard. I don't want a settlement. Leonard was quiet. Marcus, they're going to offer you everything. Tens of millions. Public apology, policy changes. This is as good as it gets. I don't want money, Leonard. I want the airline. Long pause. Say that again. I want to buy Skywave Airlines, all of it. Leonard let out a low whistle. Marcus, that's ambitious. Even with the stock tanking, it's worth billions. I know, and I can afford it. You're serious. Completely. All right, let me make some calls. If you were in Marcus's position, having faced that kind of humiliation, what would you do? Would you walk away with a settlement, or would you buy the whole company? Share your thoughts in the comments. Leonard orchestrated a financial blitzkrieg. Within 72 hours, he'd assembled investment bankers, corporate attorneys, private equity specialists. They analyzed Skywave's balance sheets, debt obligations, asset valuations. They identified vulnerabilities. They mapped every shareholder willing to sell. And they found something beautiful. Skywave was dying. The company had struggled for years. Mismanagement, rising costs, increased competition. The discrimination lawsuit was just the final nail. Major investors were dumping shares. The stock was in free fall. Creditors were nervous. Skywave was ripe for acquisition. Here's the situation, a banker told Marcus in a conference room. Skywave's market cap is $4.2 billion, but they have $3.1 billion in debt. Actual equity value is only $1.1 billion. And with the stock price dropping, we estimate you could acquire a controlling stake for $800 million to $1 billion. Marcus leaned back, considering. $1 billion. He'd built his fortune through strategic acquisitions. His net worth was north of $6 billion. He could afford this. What's the timeline? If we move aggressively, we could have a controlling stake within 6 weeks. Marcus nodded. Do it. But I want more than control. I want the whole company. Every share. I want to take it private. That's going to cost significantly more. 3, maybe 4 billion. I don't care. I'm not interested in being a shareholder. I'm interested in owning it, completely. Leonard smiled. Gentlemen, you heard the man. Let's buy an airline. The hostile takeover began quietly. Marcus's team acquired shares through shell companies and private funds, avoiding detection. They bought from desperate institutional investors. They approached shareholders with premium offers. Within 3 weeks, Marcus controlled 18% of outstanding shares. Then he went public. Leonard filed a formal tender offer with the SEC. Marcus Bennett was offering $42 per share, a 35% premium over market price, an offer shareholders couldn't refuse. Disgraced passenger launches hostile takeover of Skywave. Marcus Bennett offers $3.8 billion to buy Airline that kicked him off. Ultimate revenge. CEO moves to acquire company that humiliated him. Skywave's interim. CEO. Patricia Holland called an emergency board meeting. This is insane. He's trying to buy the entire company because we removed him from a flight? It's not insane. It's strategic. He knows we're vulnerable. The shareholders are panicking. We don't have resources to fight. Can we reject the offer? Technically, yes, but we'll face shareholder lawsuits. They'll argue we violated fiduciary duty by refusing a premium offer. And given our stock price, they'd win. Patricia spent 13 days searching for a white knight investor. She called every major private equity firm, reached out to international conglomerates, contacted rival airlines. No one stepped up. By week's end, she called Leonard. We're prepared to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. The offer is $42 per share. Take it or leave it. Expires in 72 hours. He hung up. The board voted unanimously to accept. On a Friday afternoon in late September, the deal was announced. Marcus Bennett had acquired 100% of Skywave Airlines for $3.8 billion. The company would be taken private. Trading would cease. It was the largest airline acquisition in 5 years. And it had all started with a torn jacket and a seat in first class. Tyler Harrington heard the news in his father's study in Highland Park, Texas. He was scrolling his phone when he heard the reporter say Marcus Bennett's name. Richard Harrington, silver-haired with a permanent scowl, stared at the screen, face turning red. "That's the guy from the plane," Tyler said slowly. Richard turned, eyes blazing. "You idiot! Do you have any idea what you've done?" "What are you talking about? I just told him to move." "He just bought the entire airline, Tyler. He's the new owner, and you humiliated him." Tyler went pale. "So what? It's just business. He's probably forgotten." Richard laughed bitterly. "Marcus Bennett doesn't forget anything. And trust me, son, you just made his personal list." Tyler swallowed hard. "What's he going to do?" Richard didn't answer. He just poured a drink and stared out the window. They both knew exactly what Marcus was going to do. Marcus stood in Skywave's executive conference room in Atlanta. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. On the wall hung a framed photograph of the airline's founders from 1982. Around the table sat senior leadership, the interim CEO, CFO, head of operations, chief legal officer. They all looked nervous. "Let me be very clear," Marcus said, voice calm but carrying absolute authority. "This airline is broken. You've spent years prioritizing profits over people. You've created a toxic culture. You've alienated customers. You've allowed discrimination to flourish." He paused. "That ends today." He turned to Patricia. "You're fired." Patricia's mouth opened, but no sound came. "You were brought in to fix this. You failed. Security will escort you out within the hour." He turned to the CFO. "You approved budgets that cut customer service training. You're fired." The head of operations. "You implemented discriminatory seating policies. You're fired." One by one, Marcus dismissed every senior executive complicit in creating the culture that led to his humiliation. Only 2 remained. Victoria Ross, the chief legal officer who'd opposed discriminatory policies, and Daniel Park, a young operations manager with a reputation for integrity. "Victoria, you're now general counsel and acting COO. Daniel, you're VP of operations." Both looked stunned. "We're rebuilding this airline from the ground up, the right way. No shortcuts, no discrimination, no prioritizing one passenger over another, based on anything but the ticket they purchased." He slid a folder across the table. "This is the new company handbook. Every employee, from CEO to baggage handlers, reads it, memorizes it." Victoria flipped through it, eyes widening. The document was comprehensive. New training, programs focused on anti-discrimination and customer service, an independent oversight committee for complaints, zero-tolerance policies, and an unprecedented passenger bill of rights guaranteeing fair treatment regardless of race, gender, religion, or economic status. "This is ambitious," Victoria said carefully. "This is necessary," Marcus corrected, "and non-negotiable." "Before we go deeper, I would love to hear your point of view. Tell me what part hit you the hardest in the story and share your thoughts in the comments." Sharon's life unraveled in slow motion. She'd been placed on administrative leave the day after the incident. She spent 2 weeks in her suburban Atlanta apartment watching news coverage, seeing her face plastered everywhere. Flight attendant who removed Marcus Bennett, Identified. Sharon Mitchell, the face of airline discrimination. Her phone rang constantly. Reporters, angry strangers, former colleagues distancing themselves. Her sister stopped, answering calls. Oh, when the termination letter arrived, it was brief and clinical. Oh, due to violations of company policy and conduct unbecoming of a Skywave employee, your employment is hereby terminated, effective immediately. No severance, no pension, no recommendations, just gone. Sharon had a mortgage, car payments, credit card debt. She'd been making 6 figures. Now she had nothing. She applied for jobs at other airlines. Every application rejected. The industry was small. Everyone knew. No airline wanted her. She was toxic. The woman who dragged a billionaire off a plane and cost her company billions. She tried rebranding, changed her hair, updated her resume, applied for customer service positions at hotels, cruise lines. Nothing. Bills piled up. Savings dwindled. She skipped meals. Her apartment became a prison. Then Marcus bought the airline. Sharon watched the press conference on her phone, hands shaking. Marcus stood at a podium, calm and composed, announcing the acquisition, the firings, the complete overhaul. He didn't mention her by name. He didn't have to. Everyone knew this was personal. 2 months later, Sharon stood at the bottom of metal stairs in Anchorage, Alaska, waiting for passengers to disembark from an aging turboprop. The temperature was 15 below zero. Wind cut through her thin jacket like knives. Fingers numb despite gloves. Feet aching in inadequate boots. This was her new job. After 6 weeks unemployed, she'd found work at Arctic Express, a budget carrier operating remote Alaskan routes. Pay barely above minimum wage. No benefits, no pension, no respect. She was a ground service agent now, loading bags, de-icing wings, directing passengers through cold. A grizzled fisherman trudged downstairs, shoving a heavy duffel at her. Careful with that. Sharon took it, grunting under its weight. She should charge him extra for being overweight. But she didn't. She just loaded it and moved to the next passenger. Night, in her tiny studio, the best she could afford, she stared at the ceiling. She thought about Seat 1A, warm towels, champagne service, the power she used to wield. She thought about Marcus Bennett's face when she told him he didn't belong. She whispered apologies to the darkness. But the darkness didn't answer. Tyler's punishment came differently. It started with a phone call. Tyler was at his usual Dallas bar, flirting with a woman he'd just met when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Mr. Harrington, this is Amanda Chen from Skywave Airlines." Tyler's stomach dropped. "I'm calling to inform you that your Platinum Elite status has been permanently revoked. Additionally, you've been placed on our internal no-fly list. You are banned from all Skywave flights, effective immediately." Tyler's face flushed. "You can't do that. My father is on the board." "Your father resigned 3 weeks ago. The new ownership has implemented zero tolerance for passenger misconduct. Your behavior on Flight 607 violates our passenger code of conduct." "This is bullshit. I didn't do anything wrong." "That man is now the owner of this airline, and he's made it very clear passengers like you are no longer welcome. Have a nice day." She hung up. Tyler tried calling his father. Richard didn't answer. Tyler left voicemails, texts, nothing. Finally, Richard called back. "Dad, they banned me from Skywave. You have to do something." "I can't fix this, Tyler. I tried. Marcus Bennett personally approved your ban. And it's not just Skywave." "What do you mean?" "He's sharing the information with the Airline Alliance, United, American, Delta, all of them. You're being blacklisted across the entire industry." Tyler felt the floor drop out. "That's illegal." "It's not. Airlines have the right to refuse service to anyone deemed a safety risk or disruptive passenger. You, son, are now classified as both. So what am I supposed to do? Richard exhaled slowly. You're going to have to drive, or take the bus. He hung up. Tyler tried to fight it. He hired an attorney who filed a DOT complaint arguing the ban was retaliatory and discriminatory. The DOT investigated, then sided with the airlines. The ruling was clear. Tyler Harrington had engaged in disruptive behavior. He'd harassed a fellow passenger, been intoxicated, pressured crew members to violate contracts. The airlines were within their rights to ban him. Case closed. Tyler spiraled. He drank more. Friends drifted away. His girlfriend left. His father stopped taking calls. 6 months later, Tyler was working as a sales associate at a luxury car dealership in Beverly Hills. Humiliating work, standing in a cheap suit, catering to the kinds of people he used to be. One afternoon, a black SUV pulled into the lot. Tyler straightened his tie and walked over, forcing a smile. The driver's door opened. Marcus Bennett stepped out. Tyler froze. Marcus looked at him for a long moment, expression unreadable. Tyler opened his mouth. To apologize, explain, beg. But no words came. Marcus didn't say anything. He simply walked past Tyler into the dealership, where the manager greeted him personally. Tyler watched through the window as Marcus test drove a Bentley. Bought it. Cash. As Marcus drove off the lot, Tyler caught his eye one last time. Marcus didn't smile, didn't gloat, didn't acknowledge him at all. He just drove away. Tyler understood with devastating clarity that this was his life now, forever. Marcus sat in his corner office, reviewing reports with Leonard. The restructuring is proceeding ahead of schedule, Leonard said. We've terminated 42 senior employees, implemented new training programs, and settled pending discrimination lawsuits, anonymously as you requested. What about operational metrics? Leonard slid a folder across. On-time performance up 18%. Customer satisfaction increased 32% net. Promoter score now highest in the industry. Marcus smiled. Good. But we're not done. I want to rebuild the fleet. New planes, better seats, upgraded entertainment. I want Skywave to be the gold standard. That's going to cost billions. I know, but it's worth it. We're not just running an airline. We're making a statement. Leonard studied Marcus. Most people would have taken the settlement and bought a yacht. Why all this? Marcus was quiet. Because it was never about money. It was about principle, about dignity, about making sure what happened to me never happens to anyone else. He paused. And about making sure the people who thought they could humiliate me learned a very expensive lesson. Leonard laughed. Mission accomplished. 6 months after acquiring Skywave, Marcus rebranded the airline. The old logo was replaced with something sleeker, more modern. The color scheme shifted to sophisticated navy blue and silver. The name remained, but everything else changed. The tagline, dignity in every mile. The rebranding campaign was everywhere. Billboards, television, social media. The message was consistent. Skywave was no longer the airline that dragged a passenger off a plane. It was the airline that treated everyone with respect. The response was overwhelming. Bookings surged. The story of Marcus buying and transforming the airline captured the public's imagination. People wanted to support a company standing for something beyond profit. Within 6 months, customer satisfaction scores were industry-leading. The airline was profitable again. Investors were calling. But Marcus had taken the company private for a reason. He didn't want outside investors pressuring him to cut corners or prioritize quarterly earnings over long-term values. This was his airline now, and he'd run it his way. What do you think about Marcus's approach to business and justice? Is this the kind of change the airline industry needs, or is it too idealistic? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Marcus announced plans to launch a new subsidiary, Aegis Air, a premium carrier focused on international routes, designed to compete on service quality rather than price. Industry analysts were skeptical. The airline business was notoriously difficult. Most new carriers failed within 5 years. But Marcus had what most didn't: credibility, resources, and very personal motivation. He assembled the best minds in aviation: engineers from Airbus and Boeing, hospitality experts from luxury hotel chains, data scientists to optimize routes and pricing. And he made one clear directive: Aegis Air would never compromise on dignity. The planes were fitted with the most advanced seats on the market. Even economy had 34 inches of legroom. In-flight entertainment was state-of-the-art. Food was prepared by actual chefs. But the most radical innovation was staffing policy. Every flight attendant went through 6 months of intensive training, twice industry standard. They learned not just safety, but hospitality, conflict resolution, cultural sensitivity, emotional intelligence, and they were paid accordingly, starting salaries 40% higher than industry average, comprehensive benefits, mandatory respect. If we treat our employees well, Marcus told investors, they'll treat our passengers well. It's not complicated. One investor raised concern. Your labor costs will eat into margins. How do you stay competitive? Marcus didn't hesitate. By charging more. We're not competing on price. We're competing on experience. People will pay a premium for service that actually treats them like human beings. Aegis Air's inaugural flight took off from JFK on a crisp October morning, bound for London. Marcus stood at the gate watching passengers board. Families, business travelers, a few celebrities. They all walked down the jet bridge with the same expression: curiosity mixed with cautious optimism. Victoria Ross stood beside him. Nervous? No. This is the right thing to do. The numbers will follow. Marcus walked down the jet bridge. The air inside the cabin smelled fresh, eucalyptus and clean linen. Lighting was soft and warm. Gentle classical music played. Marcus walked to the front. Seat 1A, completely redesigned. Italian leather. Full recline. Privacy shield that actually worked. Noise-canceling technology built into the headrest. Tablet interface controlling everything. But what struck Marcus most was the small brass plaque embedded in the headrest. The Bennett Standard, no one is left behind. Marcus sat down, buckling his seatbelt. A flight attendant approached, Christopher, one of the first to complete the new training program. Welcome aboard, Mr. Bennett. Can I offer you something to drink? Just water, thank you. Christopher returned with sparkling water in actual glassware, not plastic. We're honored to have you on the inaugural flight. This airline, everything you've built, it means a lot to those of us who care about doing this job the right way. Marcus looked up. Thank you, Christopher. That means more than you know. As the plane taxied, Marcus opened his laptop. Work to do. But for a moment, he allowed himself to reflect. He thought about that day on Flight 607. The humiliation, the torn jacket, being dragged down the aisle while passengers watched. He thought about Sharon's sneer, Tyler's entitled smirk, the security officers who treated him like a criminal. He thought about how close he'd come to just walking away, taking the settlement, moving on. But he hadn't. And now, sitting in seat 1A of an airline he owned, an airline built on principles of dignity and respect, Marcus understood that revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about transformation. He'd taken something broken and made it better, taken humiliation and turned it into purpose. The engines roared. The plane lifted off, climbing into clear blue sky. Marcus closed his eyes and smiled. 2 years passed since Flight 607. 2 years since Marcus was dragged down the aisle, humiliated, dismissed. 2 years since Sharon made the worst decision of her life. 2 years since Tyler learned what real power looked like. The world moved on. The news cycle shifted. But for those involved, nothing would ever be the same. Marcus stood in the conference room of Bennett Aviation Group. The company had grown exponentially. Skywave operated at record profitability. Aegis Air had expanded to 12 international routes. Marcus was in talks to acquire 2 smaller regional carriers. Victoria walked in carrying a folder. The DOT just released their annual customer satisfaction report. Marcus looked up. And? Skywave is number 1. Aegis Air is number 2. You've built the 2 most beloved airlines in America. Marcus allowed himself a moment of pride. That's good, but we can't get complacent. There's still work to do. Victoria sat down. Marcus, you've done more than enough. You've transformed an entire industry. When are you going to let yourself enjoy it? I'll enjoy it when I know what happened to me can never happen to anyone else. Victoria nodded slowly. You know that's not entirely within your control, right? No, but I can set an example. Show them there's a better way. He turned his laptop to face Victoria. On the screen, a draft of the Bennett Foundation for Dignified Travel, a nonprofit dedicated to advocating for passenger rights, training airline employees in anti-discrimination, and supporting legal cases against airlines violating basic decency. I'm donating $50 million to start this. I want it to be my legacy, not the airlines. This. Victoria read through it, eyes widening. This is extraordinary. It's necessary. Change doesn't happen just because one company does the right thing. It happens when we create systems that hold everyone accountable. Victoria looked at him with something close to awe. You really are trying to change the world. Marcus smiled. I'm trying to make it a little better. That's all any of us can do. Sharon's life had taken a different trajectory. After 18 months in Alaska, she'd found a new job, customer service trainer for a small hotel chain in Portland. Not glamorous, not prestigious, but a second chance. During her interview, she'd been honest about her termination from Skywave. She'd explained what she'd done, taken full responsibility, talked about what she'd learned. The hiring manager had listened carefully. I'm going to give you a chance, not because you deserve it, but because I believe people can change. Prove me right. Sharon had. She developed training programs focused on empathy, cultural sensitivity, recognizing unconscious bias. She used her own story as a cautionary tale, speaking openly to new hires about the consequences of prejudice and cruelty. It was humbling, painful, but necessary. One afternoon, Sharon received an unexpected email from Bennett Aviation Group. Dear Ms. Mitchell, we understand you are currently working in hospitality training focused on anti-discrimination and customer service excellence. Bennett Aviation Group is launching a new industry-wide training initiative through the Bennett Foundation for Dignified Travel. We are looking for trainers with real-world experience, including those who have made mistakes and learned from them. Your story has been brought to our attention, and we believe your perspective could be valuable in helping others avoid similar errors in judgment. If interested, we would like to invite you to interview for a position as senior training consultant. This would involve developing curriculum, conducting workshops for airline employees nationwide, and serving as a case study in our anti-discrimination programs. We understand this may be difficult given your history, but we believe in second chances for those who demonstrate genuine growth and accountability. Please let us know if you would like to discuss this opportunity. Sincerely, Victoria Ross. Chief Operating Officer Sharon read it 3 times. She couldn't believe it. Marcus Bennett, the man whose life she'd tried to ruin, was offering her redemption. She responded immediately. I'm interested. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. Tyler's life had bottomed out, then found strange stability. After 2 years of drifting, odd jobs, buses, cheap motels, he'd ended up in a small Montana town, working as a mechanic at a local garage. Not the life he'd imagined, but honest work. For the first time, Tyler wasn't coasting on his father's money. He was earning his keep. One Saturday, an old pickup pulled in. The driver was Frank, a retired logger. "Need an oil change?" Tyler grabbed his tools and got to work. As he worked, Frank struck up conversation. "You're not from around here." "No, Texas originally." "What brought you to Montana?" Tyler hesitated. He'd gotten good at deflecting. But something about Frank's honest, weathered face made him tell the truth. "I made some bad choices, hurt some people, burned bridges, ended up here because I didn't have anywhere else to go." Frank nodded slowly. "Bad choices will do that. I made plenty. Spent 10 years drinking myself to death before I got sober. Lost my family, lost my job, lost damn near everything." Tyler looked up. "How'd you get through it?" "One day at a time. And by accepting I couldn't undo the past. All I could do was try to be better going forward." Tyler finished the oil change in silence, thinking about Frank's words. When he handed Frank the keys, the old man clapped his shoulder. "Whatever you did, son, you can't change it. But you can change who you are now. That's all any of us can do." Tyler watched Frank drive away, his truck disappearing down the mountain road. For the first time in 2 years, Tyler felt something other than regret. He felt hope. Marcus sat in seat 1A of Aegis Air Flight 047, bound for Tokyo. Late evening, cabin dark, most passengers asleep. But Marcus was awake, gazing out at stars above the Pacific. He thought about the journey that brought him here, the humiliation, the anger, the decision to fight back rather than walk away. He thought about Sharon, now working to make amends. He thought about Tyler, struggling to rebuild a destroyed life. He thought about thousands of employees working for airlines, valuing dignity over profit. He thought about passengers flying every day on planes where they were treated with respect. And he thought about that moment, that single moment on Flight 607 when everything changed. A flight attendant approached. Isabel, who'd been with Aegis Air since the beginning. "Can I get you anything, Mr. Bennett?" Marcus smiled. "I'm good, Isabel. Thank you." Marcus pulled out his phone and began typing in his notes app. The Bennett Standard. No one is left behind. It's not just a slogan. It's a promise. A promise that every person who steps onto one of our planes will be treated with dignity. A promise we will never judge someone based on how they look or what we assume. A promise we will always choose humanity over hierarchy. This standard didn't come from a boardroom or marketing department. It came from a moment of injustice. It came from being dragged down an aisle, humiliated, dismissed. It came from the decision to turn pain into purpose. We can't change what happened, but we can make sure it never happens again. Marcus saved the note. He'd share it with his team next week, maybe include it in the annual report. But for now, he simply closed his eyes and let himself enjoy the flight. The turbulence was over. Marcus Bennett's story became legend. Articles were written, books published. Business schools taught case studies about his acquisition of Skywave and creation of Aegis Air. His name became synonymous with corporate accountability and transformative leadership. But Marcus didn't care about fame. He cared about change. He cared about emails from passengers who said they felt safe flying for the first time in years. He cared about employees who told him they were proud to work for his airlines. He cared about the industry slowly, gradually starting to shift toward treating people with dignity. Because in the end, that's all it had ever been about. Not revenge, not wealth, not power, dignity. the simple, radical idea that every human being deserves to be treated with respect, and that sometimes the best response to injustice isn't destruction, it's rebuilding. Marcus Bennett had been dragged off a plane, and in response, he changed the sky itself. Thank you so much for watching this story from beginning to end. If this journey moved you, inspired you, or made you think differently about justice and dignity, I'd love to hear from you. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Justice Stories for more powerful narratives like this one, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What struck you most about Marcus's approach? Would you have done the same, or would you have walked away? Your perspective matters, and I read every single comment. This story reminds us that sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't about tearing others down. It's about building something better. Something that ensures what happened to you never happens to anyone else. Thank you for being part of this community. Until next time, keep fighting for what's right.